Heiar Insurance, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands.
And welcome into Taking Care of Business today. It's Friday. That means none other than Senior Solutions with Matt Heiar here and Heiar Insurance. Matt, it's a pretty nice Friday out. Less windy today than it was yesterday.
Yes, it was terrible yesterday.
Yeah, it was absolutely terrible. And I don't know about you, but I discovered that any place I went to with a wide open parking lot, it was just like watching people try and drive in straight lines, and they were just...
Yeah, you got to be careful opening your door.
That too. And you've got kids, obviously, you know. They just want to get in and out of the car as fast as they can. I'm going, let me get out first. Let me make sure the doors don't fly, because that's the last thing is for that to go backwards. And
yeah, it's pretty cold out to have your door not working.
Yeah, we want to try and avoid that. So we'll start by diving into reminding everybody about Heiar Insurance, how they find you, the numbers to call, all of that. Let's get started with that.
Yeah. So at Heiar Insurance, we're located in Beaver Dam here at the Heritage Mall right down the road. You can give us a call at 920-887-0580, and we can help assist you on give you solutions for our seniors, and that's for retirement or the journey of Medicare, or if you have life insurance questions. Then we also have Rob, who works out of our office with estate planning, wills and trust, and power of attorneys. So we're trying to be the one-stop shop for you to let us worry about that kind of stuff when you retire, and we're here to give you answers.
And what's nice is a lot of that stuff kind of goes hand in hand. You might be looking at retirement, but then if you're looking at retirement, you might also be looking at, what do we need as far as, Medicare setup, all of that. And then you may be looking into, well, how do we plan for that inevitable, because none of us get out of this alive, for making sure that we're set for that legacy planning.
Well, and it's all full circle. I mean, we just take it for granted, like, at our places of employment, they supply us with, your life insurance and your health insurance and your basically your obviously your checks, coming in. So like now we have a 401k and we lost our life insurance and the checks stopped coming in, and it's a lot to think about. Like, oh boy, like what do we do? Or what if something happens? Or, how are we going to pay our bills now? And so we try to just take it one step at a time and create like a comprehensive plan for you to basically walk you through this, put it on paper, put it up on the TV screen, and have you and educate you on how this process works and how we're going to solve these problems.
And it can be very easy for us to just think about the one thing we lose when we stop working. We won't have a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. And then we forget, like, we also don't have dental coverage we're paying for anymore. Or we don't have health insurance coverage we're paying for anymore. Or I'm no longer putting money into my 401k. So how does that look? And those are the little things that you guys are there to kind of guide people into. And
oh, absolutely. I think like 90% of it for our first meeting is all like the psychological warfare. Like, well, this is going to happen. Because we get up every day. We're creatures of habit.
Right.
We eat breakfast. We have our coffee. We drive the same way to work. Get to work at the same time, hopefully. I know some days it can be a little bit later, but we have all these steps, and then it's just like in our mind we fear like this change. It's like, well, what's going to happen, and all the unknowns, and what's the tax consequences, and we just start thinking and just overwhelming ourselves. And everyone's like, I don't know anything about this. Of course you don't. You've never retired. You've never thought about Social Security or an estate plan. And a legacy to the kids, and so all these things just overwhelm you, and people are losing sleep, and that is basically our first appointment. It's like, what are your concerns? And all of a sudden they get the list out. Here it is, and the lists are very, very similar. Because it's a lot of those what ifs, and we don't like that. When we're working, we know that check's going to come every week, every 2 weeks. And we know that our spouse is making this much money, and we know our lifestyle, and we can pay our bills, and so we just want to continue that, and that's why we have to have a plan, because we can't just hope in one hand, right? Because you never know. It's like, oh well, hopefully things work out, and we don't like hearing that.
No, we definitely don't. And you touched on a word there, uncertainty. And I'm going to ask you a question about that in a minute. I do want to remind people that you can give us a call if you have questions for Matt. I'll be more than happy to try and answer them if we can, while we're on air. And if, of course, they can't answer them, you can always reach out and try to set an appointment there at Heiar Insurance, 920-887-0580 to reach them. If you want to call the show, you can call us at 887-9595. That's our call and text line. Or you can give us a call at 885-4446 if you want to, again, talk with Matt Heiar while you're on the show. The reason I said uncertainty is because right now, the one thing I keep hearing from people that I know who are trying to be young and money savvy is, oh boy, the market. It is all over the place. It has seen some highs and lows in the last week and a half, and it's freaking some people out.
Absolutely.
And it's having people suddenly start to question, ooh, am I still in the same spot I thought I was going to be in for my retirement, for my planning? Is this throwing everything for a loop? Any way to calm some of those fears?
Oh yes. Well, and especially Elon Musk. I mean, he's scaring everyone.
Yes, he is
right now, and it's we have to take it day by day, obviously, because they just said that he just got approved to look into the Medicaid, Medicare payment systems.
Right.
Look only. So he's not looking at personal health information, but this actually is huge because there is so much Medicare fraud that goes on. So that's where, he's going to be looking at, if there's fraudulent payments going in, because our Medicare keeps going up and up and up. And we had this discussion, Medicare went up 5.9%, but our Social Security only went up 2.5%.
Right.
Why is Medicare going up much more and quicker than, our what we're getting for Social Security? And that's alarming and that's scary. And there is so much Medicare fraud, the millions and millions per year. Medicare has about $1 billion in claims a year.
Oh, wow.
So there is a lot of money going in and out of Medicare. And obviously, rightfully so, there is basically between Medicaid and Medicare, there's 140 million people on it.
Right.
So yes, that's a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of claims, and obviously things are expensive. But to have someone go through that with a fine-tooth comb, way above my level of expertise with computer systems and stuff like that, I'm actually kind of excited that I hope they do find a bunch of fraudulent claims, and hopefully Medicare is the same price next year because we saved money that way. So that's I know everyone's fearing well, he's going to take away Medicare. Well, he can't do anything.
Right.
So that's why this hasn't been done before. We're finding out our checks and balances with Medicare. There's a lot of stuff, and it's as simple as someone calls you and you give your Medicare number to them, and then all of a sudden at your door arrives 20 back braces that they charge the government $250 a piece for, and you do not need these.
Right.
But someone got paid. The government wrote that check to that person or entity, and they're probably some shell company, and they got paid. So that's where we have to finding those things and clamping down on it would be huge, because we want Medicare to be around, and Medicare is being tested more than it's ever been with the 140 million people on Medicare, Medicaid. So I like how they're starting to look into it. I don't see any cuts happening. Like if you have cancer, you're still getting chemo, radiation, whatever it is designed for that situation. So I don't see that happening, because that would be anarchy.
Right.
If all of a sudden they're like, nope, you don't get chemo because you only have stage 2. And that's what people are fearing, but I just I don't see that happening. I never say never, obviously, especially nowadays. But yeah, the Medicare fraud has been a thing that for years, and for many different presidents, the last 20 years, we've been worried about this and having all these huge, big, basically takedowns of, these providers just, fraudulently billing out stuff that's never even happened. And so that's why I'm kind of excited to see if there is. And he even quoted, I was reading an article this morning on Reuters, and he said that there's going to be some big fraudulent claims here that we're going to find. And I hope they do. I really do. So we can kind of control our Medicare, because Medicare this year is $185, and it wasn't too long ago when I started it. I mean, we were talking $130.
Right.
So I know things get more expensive, but that is a big factor in why things are getting so expensive. So that's why for people to calm down, because we need to take it one day at a time and stuff and see. But yeah, we talked about this kind of a little bit last week where, it's election year where people are like, uh-oh, market, what are they going to do? What's going to happen? And then the first year of an administration that comes in, because there's so many changes and every president is judged by their first 100 days. So, and that's when the most things happen.
Right.
Typically, the last 2 years of an administration, things slow down and Congress gets a hold of things and the Senate and the House. So, like, it's a little bit slower of a process, and we're not hearing every news story every 10 minutes.
Right.
So I just think there's a lot happening right now, and it's hard to keep track of. But we do need people looking into Medicare for these fraudulent and waste and abuse, because there is a lot of it, and it's public knowledge. So I'm hoping that they really crack down on a lot of these providers that are fraudulently just having these phantom, claims, because we're paying for it.
Right. And it can be really easy for somebody like myself who I don't, deal with Medicare. I don't know much about the system other than what I've learned from working with you. So I'm very much an outsider. So when I hear accessing it, the first thing I think immediately is, well, then there won't be anything for me.
Right.
I won't have access, whatever. And I don't know about the fraud. I don't know about the, the frivolous spending that's happening. We all hear the stories of the, the military spending with golden toilet seats or whatever and super expensive. But, the fraud costs a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, and these shell companies or front companies, like, they bill it very properly, and they're like, yep, we need, here's the diagnostic code. We need 10 back braces, and the government gets it. And, what are they going to do? They're going to be like, yes, everything is in order. This is a durable medical equipment company. They need it, because people need back braces, obviously. But we just don't have someone to have the checks and balances of be like, all right, why do they need it? Who's it for? Which Medicare recipients are receiving this?
Right.
And it's Medicare's that big, where I don't know if we need more people, looking over that, or, obviously everyone's not a fan of who's looking over it right now, but it's I don't know if they just are going to create a committee that will monitor their stuff moving forward. But something's got to change. Something's got to happen with it, because Medicare is getting so expensive where when people come into our office, they can pick an Advantage plan or a supplement. Well, Advantage plans are $0 a month on top of the $185 that Medicare already cost. Well, a supplement, add another $100, $150 a month. Well, now that's over $300 a month for a supplement.
Right.
So it's actually, people don't have two options now. They're like, no, I can't afford that, because that's the most important thing when we pick a Medicare plan is affordability. So we can only show them one plan. And I don't think that's right. I think people should be able to have the option of picking one or the other, and not having it seems it's more scrutinized with everything being more expensive, that I have to pick this because I can't afford that, and that's not right.
Right. Moving back into the market side of things, I've heard arguments saying, don't freak out when the market dips, because if you look at the market over a long term, 5 years, 10 years, it's an upward climb. It's not a swift upward climb, but generally it's an upward climb.
Yeah, we have to tell a lot of people, our daily, people that log in every day and check their accounts and stuff, to zoom out, because yes, statistically the market's done 6 to 10% since 1970, and that's a huge, and there's been a lot of rough times, in that amount. But if you are that person checking and checking and checking, it's like you probably should be diversifying or just getting out of the market and having, more safety.
Right.
So it's all based on risk tolerance. So it's like everyone's risk tolerance is different. Mine could be different from yours.
Right.
So we should be in different investments or different strategies. So it's, if you're losing sleep over this because you're 100% invested in the market, it's like, that's probably not right for you. And
Right.
that's what happens, with people in their 401ks. They have no choice, really. You could go conservative, but you are at whatever your 401k company has. So you could have this, or this, or there might be 10 investments. But does anyone know what these investments are, these portfolios are, these funds?
Right. They just give them a fancy name and a year or something maybe for close to your retirement age. And
they try to dumb it down, basically,
Right.
and say, like, oh, yeah, target, you're this age. Your target date is 2055. So what's in that fund?
Right.
You know, and that's where it's tough, and it's just like we're not educated enough to know, like, is that all Google stock? You know, and that's where it's tough. It's like, well, we're reliant on whatever the portfolio or fund manager is doing, so it's not too much of a managed account because we're just put in these cookie cutter portfolios. So that's why some people are doing what we call like in-service withdrawals. So an in-service is, depending on your plan, you could potentially, if you reach a certain age limit, you could actually take some distributions from your 401k, put it into an IRA, and potentially have it more diversified. You could put it in everything. You could take it out of the market. You could, but it's essentially what we call a rollover, where it's not a taxable event.
Right.
You do not receive the money.
Right, because there's no income to you.
Yes.
Right.
So, in simple terms, an in-service distribution is exactly what it sounds like. It's taking a distribution from your employer-sponsored retirement account while you're still employed. But it's not what we call like, because there is other ways you can take from your 401k, like if you have a hardship withdrawal.
Right.
So there is a little bit of a difference, but it doesn't make sense for everyone, you know, and there is rules with each plan. But the biggest reason to consider an in-service distribution, if your plan allows, you may be able to roll the in-service distribution into an IRA. And basically there's certain reasons by where we can have more options, like where we could put it into CDs, ETFs, stocks, bonds, virtually anything, not crypto.
Right.
You know, and just spread our risk out, you know, so it's not just in this one portfolio. Does it make sense? Yes, you know, but that's when we have to start breaking it down, looking at fees. If you have a very diverse, you know, like options, and you know, and you liked what has happened with your 401k, it's like, why would we switch it? You know, we wait. So we don't always have to wait until we retire, because that's just what is instilled in us. Once I retire, that's when I can have access to it. Not always. You know, so we could do potentially opening up IRAs, doing in-service, putting it in a managed account, spreading out that risk a little bit, or dividing it up into buckets, you know, and having you have peace of mind for your last 2, 3, 4, 5 years of working, knowing that, you know, and you don't have to pull it all. It could be half of it. It could be a quarter of it. It could be the majority of it, you know, and then basically we come and scoop up the rest once you do separate yourself. So it's one thing that a lot of people don't know about, and it's been pretty popular lately with what you were talking about, like the fear of what's going to happen. Markets are down, and the biggest thing with markets is the correction. You know, like we always know the market, what goes up must come down.
Right.
But it's what happens after it comes down. Does it keep going down, or will it bounce back?
Right.
Typically, it bounces back, right?
Right.
Over the last 50 years. But we want to make sure that we're focusing more on principal preservation, making sure our money's there when we need it.
I do want to first remind everybody, of course, as we hit the bottom of the hour, that this is a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands. Reminding everybody, you can give us a call if you have a question for Matt. Heiar 885-4446 or 887-9595. You talked about the diversity of being able to do stuff like this. Part of that is you're taking out of that volatility of the market and putting it potentially into something that's not going to have the potential gains, but it's also going to be safer. Like we talk about, like CDs or you know, things of that sort, or a standard IRA.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. You could just you could have so much more diverse options, where it's like, oh, you could pick individual stocks. You could do what we call ETFs, which is exchange traded funds, which is a little basket of all these different stocks, you know, so you can spread things out basically, and you know, the sky's the limit for what you could invest it in, and it's just giving it a little bit more diverse, and we can adjust it accordingly, monthly, weekly, you know. And so having a managed account is great for that aspect, but it doesn't make sense for everyone. You know, if things are going great, you have low fee portfolios, like just leave it then. You know, if things are cooking, we don't touch it. But it's something to think about, but it's not for everyone. But it's something that you don't talk about, and you don't know. Like some plans allow before 59 and a half. Some allow it 55. The 55 rule, there's also, so typically it's 59 and a half, which we can access our funds without getting a 10% penalty. That might be an option where we wait till then. But it's all in your plan documents. So you could typically either contact your plan administrator who does your 401ks, or you could usually look at online or in the plan documents that you get yearly. And this is conversations we have with people just to see our options.
Right.
If that's not an option, okay, well, that's out.
And a lot of people, when they get these documents, their yearly statements or whatever, if they're like me, they pull it out, they look and see, okay, here's how much I got in there. This was my overall growth or not for the year, and okay, and it just gets thrown in a drawer somewhere. 90%
of people do not make it past page 1. It's 20 pages,
right?
And has all your investments, has your risk tolerance, everything, your target dates, your 5-year growth, your 10-year growth, and we look at page 1. Oh, what did it do this year or this quarter?
Right.
It went up, it went down. Okay, sounds good. I got to keep working, and that's fine. It's built. These 401k plans are built for the accumulation phase. It's the distribution phase that's the scariest.
Right.
Where the psychological stuff starts coming in. Checks are not coming in. Oh, what if it goes down right before I retire? Do I have to keep working another year now? And all those things. And it's like sometimes that in-service can put people at ease, knowing like, hey, someone's watching it, so I can call them tomorrow if I don't like what's going on, and we have more control. And that's the biggest thing is control when it comes to going to an IRA. But it's not for everyone, but we should educate ourselves on the different options we have moving forward.
Now, we talked a little bit about the people who are the I need to check it every day kind of people.
Oh,
These are the people who are probably checking their bank account 2 or 3 times a day, you know, all that fun stuff. If people come in and work with you and you help them look at some retirement options and set up some accounts and get things diversified out into a couple different buckets, if you will, and they still want to be the kind of person where they want to check this stuff daily just for their own peace of mind, is that something they still have the ability to do, or do they got to call you every day and be like, Matt, where am I sitting now?
No, absolutely. So we have apps, there's websites. So you have your own login username, and it's for your household, so it's for you, your wife, or your husband, and it has all your accounts listed, whether it's insurance products, life insurance, so everything is in one easy to access app, and you can see what's happening. It's live. So yes, that's also the root of all evil too sometimes, because they just keep logging into there, or they're on vacation in Bermuda and they're keep trying to log in, and then they get locked out. Then they panic, like, what's going on? So you're really not going to change people, Some people are just, nervous Nellies, and it's obviously the first couple years. That's the most vulnerable time of our distribution phases, because we always just heard, growing up, like, oh yeah, 4% rule, 5% rule. And that was like your safe withdrawal rate. Like, hey, if you pull 4% or 5%, you shouldn't statistically touch principal and you're going to be fine. Right? Well, that is true. What if in the first 5 years, which is the most vulnerable of the distribution phase, we have an 08, market drops 20, 25%.
Right.
Uh-oh. Well, now that's a lot less that we're, getting for withdrawals at 4 or 5%. What do we do now? Now, if that happens in year 20, 25, when we're in our 80s, obviously a big difference.
Right.
So the first 5 years are very, vulnerable, and that's what we're trying to give you peace of mind. So, and some people are just not made for the market. And I can't say you're wrong.
Right.
That's why we have to have a comprehensive plan for you. And a husband and wife could be completely different. It's your risk tolerance. So the market is not made for everyone. There's a lot of people that do not even touch the market. And I can't say they're wrong. So it's personally what you want and your aspirations, and then we advise you. You don't have to listen to us.
Right.
But we have a lot of stories where we're like, well, I wouldn't recommend this because one time this happened. And we don't know the future. This is what we do every day, but it doesn't mean I can tell you what the S&P is going to close at today.
Right.
So it's your peace of mind. And if you do not want to be in the market, then you do not be in the market.
And I mean, we should remind everybody that, even though the market in general has increased, that's not a guarantee ever. It's still a gamble of some sort.
Yep. So past results are not indicative of future results. I mean, it's like I should put that on the wall,
Right.
because they're like, well, the last 5 years we've been doing this, let's keep it going. It's like that means nothing,
Right.
because I mean, between world affairs, foreign affairs, obviously presidents,
Right.
coming in and out, like all these things, affect the markets. Every time the Fed goes on, talking about inflation, talking about job numbers, like all these things, earnings reports for these huge companies, these are all affecting the FOMO, the fear of missing out. So people are either quick selling because they're like, I'm out of the market, and
Right.
people are quick buying, and this all has an effect. And it's, we're all like lemurs. It's like, uh-oh, things are bad. Let's go.
Right.
Did you hear that news story? We better get out. And it's, yes, a lot of times it's like we have to calm people down and talk them off the ledge. But if we're talking them off the ledge, that means something's wrong. Like they should not be in what they're in.
Right.
So that's why. And people's risk tolerance can change throughout the years,
Right.
but it's usually the first couple of years where it's like, oh, this is too much for me, and it's like then we got to get out. We got to scale back and go to something else.
Right. Well, and in those first couple of years, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people who were at that retirement phase, they're trying to figure out a whole new way to live life. They spent 30, 40, 50 years working every day, 5 days a week, whatever. And now it's well, what do I do with my free time? What do I do here? It can be easy to let your mind wander and freak out about stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just like we want you to get a job for fun,
Right.
not because you have to. So, and we got to have the hard conversations sometimes too, where it's like, hey, what you want to do in retirement and what we have saved for retirement, they're just not matching up.
Right.
And that's the last thing you want to hear is, you're going to run out of money. So that's why it's so situational, and I wish I could just read off a chart. Everyone should do this.
Right.
At this age, you
Follow these steps and you're set.
Yes, and it's just not like that because people's lifestyles are different, and so that's why we just take it one step at a time. We worry about the insurance, we worry about our income. What is our income going to be? Because sometimes that can affect our insurance. Taxation is huge. Obviously, 'tis the season right now, tax time. So that's why we try to be your one-stop shop, and we try to advise you on our best options and different options, not just one. And we want to educate you on what the plan is. What is the strategy? We want you on board. We want you understanding what's going on. And I have to force that into some people because some people are like, I trust you. Just, yep, whatever you think. That's great. But we want you to know what's going on. You are part of it, and we want to be as transparent as possible because we are on retainer. So we are here at your beck and call, whether it's weekends. It is what it is. Sometimes things happen, and we need to get a hold of our advisor, and that's why you have our number, and that's why we also have a team. I was just on vacation. Oh boy.
Right.
But my email deferred right to my partner saying, hey, this is the number you call if you need something right now. And yes, that is a beauty of having a team because, it's a lot,
Right.
And do I know everything? Absolutely not. But that's why bouncing things off, our partners is huge because, we try to strategize. So you do not just get one person, you get our team, and we are all at your beck and call.
Now, I know oftentimes I try and find ways in my mind to get you to commit to an answer on a product or a solution or whatever. And I know it could vary from person to person and, need to need. But would you say there's a retirement investment option for the people should be looking at that maybe is underrated? So, everybody hears about Roth IRAs, everybody hears about 401ks or whatever, but is there something you don't think people are taking enough advantage of?
Well, one would be the Roth, just because it's like you can have a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA, and they can both be in Google stock, right?
Right.
So is that a good investment? Is that a bad investment? Who knows? It might be your investment. But the best part about the Roth is just the difference when you pull the money out. Tax-free income.
Because the money you put in there has already been taxed.
Correct. Yes. So drawbacks, we don't get to deduct it. They still have contribution limits, just like your traditional IRA. And we can only, do so much each year, but we're reaping the benefits in the back end of it. And typically everyone comes in with tax deferred money, like, oh, every time you touch it, you got to pay taxes. So having that option is huge. I would say that would be underused a lot just because it's not offered for a lot of 401k plans. It's starting to be a lot more, but yes, that is great when people have that because it's just a bucket that's created that we don't have to create. So yeah, I would say that, but not like an actual investment because you can invest these Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs in a plethora of things.
Right.
So yeah, that's absolutely, I would say Roth IRAs are just not talked about as much, but they're starting to become more. So even just calling your plan administrator and be like, do you have Roth options? I mean, doesn't mean you have to do it.
Right.
But let's see if it's a possibility.
I like it. I want to talk a little bit about the experience of working with Heiar. We've talked about kind of what you guys offer and how you guys want to have that initial sit-down meeting. But I know I was explaining to somebody the other day, I said, yeah, you should go and see them, because they're getting pretty close to retirement age. And I said, now is probably a good time to start thinking about things. Mm-hmm. If you haven't already, I mean, really should have been well before now, as I've learned. But I said, yeah, go in and talk to them. They can talk to you about a lot of things. They can also, help you look ahead for, your Medicare planning and all that other stuff. And they said, oh, I don't want to sit down and have a 4-hour meeting where we go over all this stuff. And I tried to explain to them, no, stuff has to be separated. But there's that getting to know you phase and find out what you need and everything else. And they were like, well, that sounds weird or whatever, because again, we haven't retired before. We haven't gone through this before. It's not something that we go to like, the local grocery store the same way every time.
Right. And there's the regulation, like you said, we have to, obviously keep those separate and stuff. But I mean, the initial consultation is complimentary. All right. People always ask, like, what do I owe you? Nope, you do not owe us for that. But are we going to work together? That's the hugest thing because, you could come in and be like, I don't really like this guy. It's like, we're not going to work together then.
Right.
And that's completely fine. There's a lot of people that do exactly what we do. You want to be comfortable with whoever you work with, whether it's your banker, lawyer, anybody, so that is the main thing. It's like, what are your concerns? What are your aspirations? What are your thoughts on retirement? Are you going to work part-time? Are you going to travel? These are all very important questions to build a plan. And we always use the analogy, I have a broken arm, but I don't want an x-ray. It's like, does the doctor know that? We need the x-ray to figure it out, so it's more so, yes, just getting to know each other and seeing if we're a match to work together. And that's huge, and transparency is a big thing, so that's why my mom always used to say that when she met her first lawyer that she worked with, and stuff, they said, you have to get naked, you have to, this is what it is, I have 3 kids, but one of them doesn't talk to us, and stuff, so I don't know exactly how that's going to go with the will. These are all important questions. Do you have an estate plan? Who's your power of attorney? What are you going to do for insurance? When are you going to retire? Prior to 65? Okay, well, we have to look at marketplace insurance. We have to control our income then. And these are just all things. So it's hard to okay, yes, let's do everything in one meeting. It doesn't happen that way.
And when I come in for that initial consultation, is that the time where I got to bring in all my documentation, all my information, come in with stacks and stacks of stuff? Or is that for future?
That'd be for the future because it'd be the route we're going to go. Because you could come in for retirement and stuff, but you already have an advisor, so you got your income plan worked out, but you're more concerned about the health insurance kind of, maybe life insurance, the estate planning, and, that's a different route. So if I have you, bring all your 401k stuff, but you already have an advisor, it's like, no, I do not want to step on other advisors, toes. I'm not trying to poach anyone or anything, but I have talked to other advisors, getting the game plan going with okay, we're going to pull from Roth so it doesn't look like taxable income. That'll help with the insurance, so
right.
Absolutely we'll work together, but it all depends, because some people just strictly Medicare. Some people, they just took a life insurance policy out. That's it. They have everything else covered. Some people, I talked to them and we don't even work together. It was more so they wanted the power of attorneys, and so then I refer them to Rob. So it all depends on, that's why the consultation is huge. It's like, what would you like us to do? What are your concerns? And then we kind of evaluate from there,
Now, we've talked before about a lot of what you do is very advisory for people. You're not telling them what they have to do.
Absolutely not.
You're giving them the options. You're letting them make the decisions themselves because at the end of the day, they're adults. They're grown-ups. They're supposed to have the capability to make those decisions. If somebody comes to you and says, I've gone to this other advisor, we've got set up on stuff, we got things going, and they're not answering my questions. They're not local. They're not they're not reachable, whatever. Is that something where, you can kind of look over what they have and not poach, but if they go, you know what, you're so much more helpful, can I switch over to working with you guys? Is that doable, or are they stuck with that other person?
No, you're not stuck with anyone, just like you're not stuck with me. So we do portfolio reviews, and we'll look at income plans, that are designed for people, and a lot of it is, where we just question, well, why are you taking Social Security at this age? Well, because that's what the sheet says. And it's like,
right.
What's the we want you to understand what's going on, and they might write some questions down when they go back to their advisor to ask. And, that's not poaching, but have people come over that have had an advisor. Yes. And that's totally fine. You can hire and fire anybody,
right?
Whether it's lawyers, doctors, you name it. No one is forced. There's no contracts that says you got to be with me like DirecTV for 2 years, whether you like it or not.
Right.
The rates keep going up. No, it's absolutely. You could be with us for a month, and then some people actually would just want advice and just pay for advice. They don't want to go with us, but they'd like some insights. And yes, you could do a fee for service. That's why it's so broad, and people's needs and wants. And in retirement, we have a lot of do-it-yourselfers. They're like, hey, I kind of got a passion for this, and they're like, I'd like your advice, but I still want control. I want to do it myself. There's nothing wrong with that.
See, I'm old enough to remember, and I'm sure you are as well, the slew of insert topic for dummies books that came out.
Yep.
And it'd be anything from computer programming for dummies to baking a cake for dummies. So I'm sure there's probably a planning your retirement for dummies out there somewhere.
Yeah, well, now with the introduction of AI, everyone's like, oh yeah, well, I'm just going to use AI, like these apps, that pick me the best plan and stuff. And it's almost like with the automated vehicles and stuff, yes, is it cool that can happen? Do you trust it though?
Right.
And this is your life. And so I think it's nice. I mean, we use a lot of technology, for simulations and stuff like that. But at the same time, the broad math and just looking at it and, physically seeing it, it's kind of nice just to actually talk to someone and be like, why did you pick this?
Right.
Because why? And these are answers, and you will get a letter, you will get bills, you will get, a statement, and you're going to have a question. You probably want to talk to the person that set the plan up, and
right.
or at least one of the team members. So that's why, I have no shame in, pulling one of my partners in and be like, hey, this situation is a little different because we're dealing with, a trust, and a lot more about these, the transfers of trust, and I bring them in, and some people, they have situations where it's just more simplified, and it's like, oh, I got this, it's pretty cut and dry. So that's why, having, my peers that I reach out to and stuff, and, having the team, that is the biggest thing, because yes, I am not too proud to say that I can handle anything you got, our
right.
team can, I can confident enough to say that, but yes, if I can't get you an answer, we will get you that answer. And that's why I love what I do, because I get to work with the community, and every situation is different. So, and every day is different.
I honestly can't wait to the day when we're sitting here doing this show, be it 2 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever it happens to be, and I ask you about anything new that's come up, and you tell me, well, somebody came in today, and I said, well, why did you do it this way? And they said, AI told me to.
Yeah.
I fear that's coming.
Yeah.
Which I should point out there, not that, generally we're the kind of people who are going to point out security things and issues that could come up, but for anybody who doesn't know, AI is a language learning model. Mm-hmm. It searches the internet and then compiles the most common answers into its answer. If the most common answers that are out there are false, you're going to get a false answer.
And it's still a computer.
It's still a computer.
And
yeah.
Obviously it's going to advance and advance, and it's almost scary to hear like how it can learn, and, you know, and it evolve, and you know, so we're very early in the AI, but it's been brought up in many conferences that we go to, like, well, everyone's just going to download an app and they're going to have them pick their stocks, and it's like, if that's what people want to do, I mean, I can't say you're wrong, but I don't want to be the guinea pig for retirement.
Yeah. I don't think I would be either. I think I'd rather talk to somebody, you know, real and in person who, you know, sure, they're helping me advise what to do with my money, but, you know, they're going to advise me in a way that is almost like if it was their money.
Yeah, all of a sudden the supercomputer tells me to invest in crypto. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Something's wrong here.
That could be a little scary. We don't have time to go into why that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we do have to wrap up the show, but I do want to give you a moment to, you know, shout out the team. Once again, give those phone numbers for people who want to get a hold of Heiar Insurance and come set up an appointment, come talk to you, be it for that initial consultation or more. Yep.
If you want to have a no-pressure consultation, just meet and, you know, put a, face to the voice? Face to the voice.
Yeah.
Just give us a call at 920-887-0580.
Perfect. And as always, your guys' slogan?
Do you want to retire?
Call Heiar.
Call Heiar.
I like it. This has been a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands.